Reviewing game compilations is weird. Like, unless the company really screws it up, like in the case of Silent Hill HD for instance, usually they're safe bets. You kinda just know what you're getting into. A bunch of great games all conveniently together for one solid price. Mario 3D All-Stars should really be the perfect package, and a no-brainer. You're getting Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, some of the greatest games ever made that still stand the test of time. Though I don't know, it feels like something's missing, like they forgot a game that everyone was expecting and now we're all just left to wonder its fate. But that would be silly. If there's ever been a series that you can always bet your money on to have a good time, it is Mario, and that holds true with this collection of games. I could definitely say right now that you will have a good time with this collection if you choose to pick it up. But how well does 3D All-Stars present itself? What is being brought to the table to enhance these games? Now, it's very likely anyone watching this video has played at least one of these games before, but in case you haven't, as the name suggests, these are Mario's 3D adventures. Rather than being linear obstacle courses where you race to the end, these games drop Mario in sandbox-like worlds where you're tasked with finding stars or shine sprites in order to move on to the next stage, usually in the form of some mission. Galaxy strayed from this a bit and ended up being more linear than the other two, but there's still plenty of open area worlds for you to explore in it. The stories haven't changed much. In 64, Bowser kidnaps Peach. In Sunshine, you're framed as an environmental terrorist, and then Bowser Jr. kidnaps Peach, and in Galaxy, Bowser kidnaps Peach, but that's how it's always been. The focus here is on the evolution of Mario's moveset, all his crazy acrobatics applied to platforming challenges that were never really possible during his 2D adventures. Honestly, I would love to talk about each game individually. They certainly deserve it, but for now, let's just talk about how they're presented in 3D All-Stars, starting with the first game in the package, Super Mario 64. Strangely enough, this is probably the game I've played the least. I never owned it as a kid. I knew a friend who had it and I played a bit there, but I wouldn't be playing Mario 64 much on my own till the DS version. But yeah, this game's always been one I loved, maybe even more so as a spectacle. The tech you could pull off in Mario 64 really has given the game longevity it might not have had otherwise. I may not be able to speedrun it, but I'm definitely always down to watch how it's done, and unfortunately, this version of the game might not be able to deliver that to me. If you haven't heard, though you probably have, Nintendo decided to go with the Shindo version of Mario 64. The updated Japanese-only release that added rumble support, but in return patched out some glitches, one being the backwards long jump where you build insane speed and break the game in the process. They also changed one of Mario's infamous quotes against Bowser, from this
So long, Bowser.
to this.
It's time for you to try.
Honestly, I can totally understand why they did this. As a company from Japan, this is surely the version they're the most proud of. But I can't help but feel like this was a bit of a tone-deaf decision, as the more widely played version of Mario 64 is the original release. Ultimately though, this is still Mario 64, and it's a great time, except now it looks better and runs a bit smoother than before. The updated HUD elements, the much cleaner font, the few touch-ups to the textures, and the higher resolution go a long way to make this the best looking official release of Mario 64 to date. From 240p to 720p, it's a noticeable improvement for sure. The paintings, for instance, have been completely replaced. Some of these elements just wouldn't look this nice had the game been simply upscaled. But it's hard to be impressed when fans have done better. Say what you will about emulation, but die-hard fans have done really impressive work on 64. Widescreen support would have been really nice, and while the game does run better than before, it's still a 30 FPS experience when it could have been brought up to 60. Maybe it's just me, but it also really bothers me how this game doesn't even touch the edges of the screen. Like, just please stretch it out a little bit more. Give me the option, at least. Also, there's just no border for this game. It's not needed, sure, but even the NES and SNES apps have a simple but elegant border. Frankly, it just feels like I'm playing a ROM on my Switch, which is the case, but they could have hidden the fact a bit more with a little bit of polish. Even so, Mario 64 is a game that I'll always come back to, even if I'm not great at it. It still impresses me how much they got right on their first attempt at a 3D platformer. I think for many people, Sunshine may be a huge reason for wanting 3D All-Stars. This is the first time we've ever seen a re-release of the game, and the one that fetches the highest price if you want a second-hand physical copy. It sold the worst of the three, not that it sold bad, but the demand is harder to meet. I sold my copy to Game Crazy back in the day, and yeah, I regret it. Probably got like $10 at the most. Anyway, compared to 64, Sunshine's visual improvements are much more noticeable to me. Just like before, all the HUD elements and text were updated along with some of the environmental textures and look substantially better than before. Sunshine is also now in 1080p and widescreen, giving you a much cleaner and wider look at everything. Considering the stages are much more detailed this time around, the extra visibility does go a long way. lets you just take in the levels a bit more organically, you know? Maybe it's because the HUD elements are pushed to the sides as well, but the game just feels a bit less cramped as a result. The cutscenes too have been improved. It's a solid jump in quality, but in order to maintain the 16:9 aspect ratio, they just zoomed in, and as a result the cutscenes get cut off a bit. You really aren't missing much though. It's a bit of a shame there's no GameCube controller support. I mean, you can plug it in and play some parts of the game just fine, but eventually you're gonna run into some issues. As far as I can tell, there's no way to ground pound or bring the camera over the shoulder for precise aiming. The Switch also doesn't have analog shoulder buttons. On the GameCube controller, in order to running squirt, as stated in the game's control settings, you'd lightly tap the R button. If you held down R fully, you'd stop and squirt. I don't like squirt. It sounds weird. Call it spray, I don't know. Call it anything else. Shoot, blast, I don't know. I guess there's no good word for it. I just don't want to say it. Either way, now you use 2 buttons for stationary and running, which works well. But for some reason Nintendo also reversed the controls for aiming the nozzle, and there's no way to change it. It used to be inverted, and now it's not. I couldn't tell you which control scheme is better. It's certainly going to be up to preference, but an option to change it would have been nice. This applies to the camera as well, and was also changed in Mario 64. And yeah, you can't change that either. I adjusted to all this pretty fast and I'm totally fine with it, but I've seen some complaints already, so it's worth pointing out. But yeah, that's about it. There's some nitpicky stuff I can get into, I guess. The awkward editing of the tutorial to match the Switch's buttons is pretty funny.
If you press the button, you can stop and shoot.
I can't help but feel like they could have tried to improve this in a better way. It's a nitpick, I'm not judging the game hard on it, but it's funny. Game still runs at 30 FPS, which again, feels like a missed opportunity, but it's still sunshine. This game's always been decisive, and it'll remain that way, but I can't lie, I love playing this game. Until Mario Odyssey, this was my favorite 3D Mario in terms of movement. Everything just felt so right. It's very snappy with just the right amount of speed. The level designs, yeah, I know some people knock it against the game how it's all beach related, but personally I think it's great. The consistent theming throughout only adds to the game's uniqueness, and none of them really feel the same to play through either. The fun stops for me though when I consider going for 100%. I still think it's a huge chore to accomplish, and I really wish Nintendo added a better way to track your blue coins. But hey, maybe with the pick up and play nature of the Switch, I'll be compelled to track them all down this time. Mario Galaxy is easily the best looking of the 3. Widescreen, 1080p, and also being in 60 FPS as well, making it stand out from the other 2 drastically. Nintendo made an amazing change by simply mapping the waggle required to the spin attack to a simple button press. This is great, and I love it. The pointer implementation, on the other hand, is a bit tricky, and really it's hard to blame Nintendo too much on this one, as the hardware is just not the same as it was on the Wii. Pointing your Joy-Con or Pro Controller at the screen to interact with star bits and pull stars is pretty good, but it's never going to be as elegant as it would be on the Wii's sensor bar. It's pretty common for the pointer to drift away off screen, but it snaps right back to the middle of the screen with the press of the R button. I really didn't mind this new style. In some ways I kinda liked it more since I didn't have to aim my controller straight at the TV. I could just sit however I wanted to and adjust the controls accordingly. If you play it portably, you have to use the touchscreen. And man, it just doesn't work for me. I love playing the Switch in portable mode, but for Galaxy, the experience is bogged down. Technically, yes, it's more accurate as you can click on anything immediately, but having to take your entire hand off the side of the Switch to interact with star bits is a pain in the ass. You lose control. Whether it be your jumps or your movement, one has to be sacrificed in order to use the screen. During levels that require full use of motion control, like the Manta Ray or Rolling Ball, the controls are very similar to what you experienced on the Wii, which is perfectly fine docked, but again, it's kind of annoying when playing in handheld. Thankfully there aren't many levels like this, so you'll get by it fine, but it would have been nice if Nintendo let us use the sticks or buttons for these levels when in handheld mode. It reminds me of Mario Odyssey, though not as bad. You know, that game looked great in handheld, but to me it's impossible to enjoy when I gotta shake the damn thing all the time to perform better or exclusive moves to motion control. These games too look great in handheld. Honestly, they look really damn nice. Even if they are older games, seeing them look so clean in portable mode makes me happy, but it's 2020, you wouldn't take Mario outside right now. He'll get coronavirus. Mileage will definitely vary hard here. Maybe you won't mind the portable controls as much, but I'm thankful there's 2 ways to play this game at least. Galaxy docked works really well, looked amazing, basically ran perfectly. Outside of still forcing some motion control, I have no complaints. But yeah, that's about it for the games. Modest amount of changes overall. Time to focus on the menus and extras. And I guess I'll just say it, I don't like this menu. You boot up the game and you're treated with an eye exam. Am I going blind? Why does the title screen get blurry? Gold and black are very premium colors. I kinda get what they're going for, and the color scheme combo is fine, but for me, it misses the mark. The problem is the minimalistic approach and the font. Yes, I know this is the same font they used in the original All-Stars release, but 1, it looks better with letters instead of numbers, and 2, honestly, it didn't look that great back then either. It's a callback, and that's cute, but for me, that's all it is. Basically, I look at this and I don't think of Mario. Really, I don't think of anything because nothing's really on display. This could be the menu for your in-flight entertainment, I don't know. Hey, would you look at that? Suddenly it's the menu for Buck Bumble, that's crazy! Sure, it's just a menu, but a good menu stands out. It's not something you think about often, but when developers put in the extra effort, you notice. As a compilation of games, this is a way for the developer to get you excited for the contents inside, and will make you want to explore all it has to offer. But yeah, what you see here is what you get. In this case, very literally. All the contents are on this one screen. 3 games, 3 soundtracks. 3 really great soundtracks, no doubt. But there could have been so much more to this release. Where's the art gallery? Seeing promotional images, high quality renders, sketches, drafts, and so on. Hell, this game has renders from the games during loading screens. Why couldn't they just include that in a nice gallery? What about old trailers, commercials, commentary tracks? Mega Man X Legacy Collection weirdly included a bunch of toys you could browse through. Wouldn't that be sick to see for Mario products? Man, I remember playing the Sonic Mega Collection on the GameCube back in the day. The music alone would keep me in the menus looking at all the art and comic book covers, but if there's one thing I kept coming back to, it was that Sonic Boom intro cutscene. I didn't know what that game was. I didn't grow up with Sonic outside of a few friends who had some of the games. This one cutscene with its catchy song blew my mind, and yeah, I would love to see something like this in the Mario collection. At $60, I do feel like the price is a bit high for what is offered. Is it unexpected? No. Is it outrageous? Not really. But it's underwhelming what we were offered, and Nintendo's put us all in a weird situation where we feel forced to buy it thanks to the limited availability. Whether the price is fair or not is really up to the individual, but Nintendo putting an expiration date on not only the physical but digital version of 3D All-Stars is kind of concerning. Now that they've re-released these games, I don't think this will be the last time we see them, but without telling us their plans, they've created a bit of a panic, and it's hard to side with them on it. Some people will say that the Wii release of All-Stars was also limited, and that is true, but here's the thing. All those games were purchasable on the Virtual Console, even if you did have to settle for the original NES releases. If you missed out on the physical version, you weren't shut out of luck if you just wanted to play them on your Wii. Maybe there's a pattern to be seen here, but I don't see why that makes it okay. You know what was a great Nintendo release? Kirby's Dream Collection on the Wii. This feels like a celebration. 6 great games, heavily stylized menu, an interactive timeline that can teach you exactly when Obama was elected. There's demo videos of games not included to catch you up to date. You can watch episodes of the cartoon on the disc, and on top of that, there's even some new challenge levels to play that are based on Kirby's Return to Dreamland, all wrapped together in a special box with an art book and soundtrack for $40. The way I see it, Mario 3D All-Stars at the end of the day is likely worth your money. The amount of hours you'll get out of each game easily warrants the price of admission, and Nintendo knows that. The game is selling extremely well. Everybody wants it because not only is it Mario, but it's 3 Mario games guaranteed to bring a good time. If you've never played one of these games, then there's even more reason to get on board. But as a fan, it just feels like they wanted to make sure they had a holiday title out in time. I mean, isn't it strange how there's just an entire game missing from this collection for no real reason? I mean, I can't think of one, but give me one good reason why Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix isn't on here. Oh, and Galaxy 2, I guess.